Hello and welcome to The Entrepreneurial Musician, a coaching service, podcast, and blog preparing today's musicians for tomorrow's realities. This is TEM218, titled Spotted Online. Thank you to Parker Mouthpieces for providing the hosting for TEM. Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz Artist Model Tuba Mouthpiece. You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Also, you can find out more about TEM coaching if you would like to increase both the impact and then your income from your art. Head to tem.fm/coaching to learn more. All right, TEM218, Spotted Online. This is an old, I've done a number of these now over the years. It's hard to believe I'm up to episode 218, but I guess if you just kind of keep on doing stuff over and over again, that you will eventually get to high numbers. That's pretty deep, I know. Sorry, I should have warned you I was going to get philosophical. But I've done a bunch of these Spotted Onlines, and I always share three things that I found online that I thought were thought-provoking. And I'm actually going to steal something from a couple of people that I've seen, which is sharing a number of things from other people and then one thing from yourself. So I've actually got a list of three things, and then I'm also going to highlight one particularly popular TEM blog post from about a week ago. Anyway, the first thing I wanted to share with you is a James Clear tweet, and as is usually the case with this guy, it is to the point. It just simply said, remember what your failures taught you, forget how your failures made you feel. Remember what your failures taught you, forget how your failures made you feel. I try to not just retweet every single tweet that James Clear ever tweets from either the TEM, which is at TEM Coaching, Twitter handle, or my at Andrew Hitz handle, because if you wanted to read every tweet that James tweets, you would probably just, I don't know, follow him. But so many of them are so good, but this one just screamed at me. I think it's important to forget what our failures felt like, right? Because if I focus on the feeling of failure, which always hurts, I don't get better at failing. It sucks, it hurts, I hate it, I try to avoid it at all costs, although I simultaneously actually try to make it happen at all costs too. I guess that's come from old age, because you just have to try lots of things, and if you try 12 things and if 2 things hit, that's a huge percentage in the trying things in the entrepreneurial department. 2 out of 12 is big. 0 for 40 is not ideal. 2 for 12 is just fine. But I have to ignore and get over as quickly as I can the feeling that the failure gives me. I can't regret the past, but I also can't shut the door on it, right? I need to remember what each and every one of those failures taught me. And what failures teach me is sometimes very straightforward. This was the wrong idea. Or it was the wrong time, or I messed it up, or I wasn't the right person. It's frequently a lot of gray area in between all of those things. And I usually will get a clearer sense of what exactly went wrong and what I could have, if anything, done differently if I were to do it again. But that comes from time and reflection, which is precisely why I can't shut the door on the past, which is why I have to remember all the failures, what they taught me, and that evolves. But I have to forget what the failures made me feel like as quickly as possible, because I find that briefly, it fuels me. It makes me want to try the next thing. It makes me want to try 5 more things, actually, because if I try 5 more things, there's much more of a chance that one of them is going to get traction, is going to impact people. Income always follows impact. I'm always talking to my TEM coaching clients. That's a common phrase, almost as common as me saying the word remarkable on this podcast, although probably not quite as common, but it's close. So remember what your failures taught you, forget how your failures made you feel. The next one is not a single post. It was this. Well, there is a hashtag. It is on Twitter. Hashtag TinyEfforts2020, and this was the a project by a flutist by the name of Alice Jones. And I follow Alice on Twitter on my at Andrew Hitz account, and she's a wonderful follow. But I was completely knocked out with this initiative that she started. Reading from her website, which is alicehjones.com, and it's alicehjones.com/tinyefforts2020 .html. The link is in the show notes as always. But the opening paragraph explains this. In June 2020, I wrote the set of four pieces below. I still don't know how to live with the mix of anger, grief, anxiety, listlessness, uncertainty, cautious hope, and beauty that I'm experiencing and that I see in the world around me right now, but I'm trying. So this is obviously right in the middle of this pandemic. At the same time, I've been trying to think of small ways to stay in touch with my musical community, support people around me, elevate BIPOC artists, and how to do better in this world. I hope that this tiny project speaks to you, that it resonates with what you've been feeling too. She then instructs that the four pieces, which can be played on any instrument, she encourages anyone to download them and to perform them. And she then says that she wants to support you as you make music, and especially if you are a BIPOC artist. If you record any of these works, a single piece, multiple, in any order, let me know, and I'll use my stimulus check plus another $800 from generous anonymous sources to send you $50, and then in parentheses, $100 if you're a BIPOC artist, up to $2,000 total. And there is a list of people who have shared videos and recordings already. There's a couple of violas, flute, piano, flute, bassoon, violin, bassoon, cello, alto sax, steel pan, trombone, guitar, vibes. I mean, this is brilliant, and it's just this. It's a remarkable. It had been at least 3 minutes since I said that. This is a remarkable thing. Talk about getting traction for your art, supporting others. She is building a community through all of this. I'm not that this is going to suddenly make her rich and famous, but I am talking about her as an artist on this podcast. This is a brilliant campaign, and it's generous. Seth Godin is always talking about being generous and giving people gifts. She was going to originally only use, and I say only, that it's incredibly generous for her to do this, but she was going to only use her stimulus check, and then multiple anonymous sources donated another $800 to bring it up to $2,000. So she actually, I don't believe, and I haven't spoken to her, although I would love to get her on the podcast to talk about this. I don't believe that she set out to raise any money. I think that that was just a byproduct of this, and she has supported a long list of people. So she is getting her name out there. She's supporting people, even if it's just $50 in these times when, I don't know about you, but every single one of my gigs has been canceled. Like, yeah, it's not good. And so $50 is a lot of money for some people. This is getting her music out there, and it's so generous how she's saying, set this however you want. Some of these were streamed live, as it says in the list of performances. Others were just recorded. She has some people from major symphonies. She has individual musicians. She has some pretty famous chamber players. It's a wide cross section of the classical music world, and I just thought that this was a wonderful project to bring attention to. I thought it was really impressive and creative and remarkable, and it is not, and the music is wonderful too. I always like to try and make that point on this podcast where if her music was terrible, then sure, this is remarkable, but people would download the pieces and be like, these are not any good. She'd probably have a couple of people, but the writing is fantastic. And the whole thing, just the existence of this thing, is remarkable. If she got this idea from someone else, I had never heard of it, which means that it certainly isn't well known, just a brilliantly remarkable thing that she has done in a time when we can't be playing together. So my hat is off to Alice for coming up with such a cool idea that I for sure wanted to highlight. The last one, which is very predictable, is something from Seth Godin. Season 7 opener was actually the name of the Akimbo episode, which was you could probably figure this out on your own, but it was the opener from Season 7. They usually have a name. This one was just called Season 7 Opener. And they usually have like a title that doesn't really make sense until you listen to the episode. This just is called Season 7 Opener, and it was actually a Zoom interview that he did for Inc. magazine. And this was done, I think it was done in June. So actually around the same time that Alice launched this Tiny Efforts 2020 project. And so Seth is talking within the context of the pandemic, and it's very on point. It's as usual with Seth. It's very philosophical stuff. It's very 30,000 foot view stuff, to use an overused cliche, and yet it's all actionable. It's like that's why I enjoy his work so much, is that it's at such a macro level, yet I never have a problem directly applying the principles he talks about. There are some people who talk about really macro things, and I go, yeah, and I get fired up, and then I have no clue what the hell I'm supposed to do next to institute any change. I have no idea what the next action is. With Seth, for me, that's one of the reasons why I just can't stop listening and reading, all of his stuff. Is because it all is actionable. So I would really recommend that Season 7 opener, because it's about an hour. It's long form for him. The interviewer is who's like one of the big editors for Inc. magazine, and he is obviously friendly with Seth. He's fine. It's not like the most remarkable interview that I have heard, but Seth's answers are just money. It's really worth your time. The link to that is, of course, in the show notes. And then the one bonus one that I think I'm going to also do from now on with the Spotted Online is 3 things from other people around the internet. When we used to surf, I'm old enough that we used to surf the internet. I would actually sit down and think of like the websites I wanted to go to. So I don't know about you, that's not exactly how I do it these days. I'm not so old that I still surf the internet. That's old. But this one is from the TEM blog, and this one actually got a ton of traction. I titled it "Do What Matters Now," and that is all about. Well, the title is a little self-explanatory there. It's all about doing what matters right this second, and about saying no, and it's about leaving jobs, and about how every time I've ever thought about leaving a job, and I've left a number of high-profile ones, every single time it was the right decision, even though I got advice, very loving, very from insightful people, advice saying, you really shouldn't give fill in the blank up. And every single time those people were wrong. And my gut telling me that I should leave, which was like, it would told me over time that I should leave when I pulled the trigger. It was the right move, and so I wrote, for me, a longish blog post. It'll take you like 5 or 6 full minutes to read. So I do like those super long form blog posts. I just don't like writing them. It just takes so long that I'm more of like the 3 paragraph or 5 or 6 minutes. But I don't tend to slash. I'm not sure if I've ever done one that's like a true long read that's 10, 12 minutes. That's like a short book. So yeah, not so much. I'm a tuba player. I can't put together that many sentences in a row. So that James Clear tweet, the Alice Jones Tiny Efforts 2020, Seth Godin's Season 7 opener, and the Do What Matters Now from TEM blog are the featured things for this episode of Spotted Online. Thank you to everyone for listening, subscribing, leaving a rating and a review on Apple Podcasts, unless you hate the podcast. And then, first of all, you should question some life decisions as to why you're listening to it, but don't leave a rating. Or wherever you get TEM. And simply for your attention, the most valuable commodity any of us have to give. TEM is produced by the amazing Will Houchin and is a part of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. The theme music for TEM is played by Ben Barron, is that clarinet you hear. Rich Kelly is a freakishly good trumpet player. Daniel Lapel is a guitar player who can play a million notes a minute with style and subtlety. I don't really understand it, but he can. And myself, Andrew Hitz, on tuba. For show notes, the TEM blog, and to learn more about TEM coaching, please visit our new website, tem.fm. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as YouTube. We got a brand new YouTube channel. Please subscribe to that. Thank you to everybody who has done that. And that's going to do it for another episode of The Entrepreneurial Musician.